Hi, Ms. Coulter. My name is Caleb Wetherell, and I go to Harvard. And I first of all just wanted to thank you and YAF for all that you're doing. I know we all really appreciate it. And my question centers on the war. I guess I'm wondering, because we're in a time of war right now, do you think that it's important to inject some pragmatism into our principles? And is it worth the risk of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory by nominating or by electing a Democrat as opposed to just holding our noses and voting for Senator McCain? And furthermore, what about Supreme Court justices? Is it worth getting a really liberal Supreme Court justice through nominating a Democrat if there's a vacancy, other than voting for John McCain?
Right. Now, those are the two strongest arguments to vote for even a really rotten Republican. Okay, on the war on terrorism, I mean, I've been watching all of these Democrat debates, and Hillary does retain the prerogatives of the commander-in-chief in these debates. I said it long before I realized we were going to have, a bonehead like McCain as our nominee. If I had to choose one of the Democrats running for president, it would absolutely be Hillary Clinton. This is when she's seeking the votes of MoveOn.org. She refuses to apologize for her Iraq vote. When Obama made that crazy statement about how he was going to dash off to meet with Kim Jong-il and Hugo Chavez, Hillary said, no, I won't be used for propaganda purposes. When they were asked the question about if 2 U.S. cities are attacked and Obama's, calling the ambulances, Hillary's answer, and she was the only one on the stage who said, I would find out who did it and we would retaliate mightily. I mean, on the argument on the other hand, which I have written about in great length in a book called Treason, is that even when Democrats have their hearts in the right place, like JFK did, they're just incompetent. They can't manage foreign policy. It's an incredibly dangerous and high-risk strategy to ever let Democrats anywhere near foreign policy. But then on the other side, you have John McCain, who is actually out campaigning to shut down Guantanamo, to give terrorists access to the intelligence against them. I mean, even after the ruling against the Bush administration, which, McCain was all in favor of, we have to give them the terrorist trials and send in Alan Dershowitz, George Bush came up with a plan for the military tribunals, giving the terrorists basically every aspect of an Article III trial. They would get lawyers and, they'd see some evidence, this, that, the other thing. The one thing they would not be allowed to do is see the evidence against them. Their lawyers would see it. They wouldn't see it. McCain was hysterical about that. This is a war against terrorism. We can't turn over the intelligence of how we put these guys there. I mean, it's... And yes, Hillary has, made statements. Yes, she'd shut down Guantanamo. She hasn't led the campaign the way he has. Both of them voted for the war in Iraq. Both of them immediately criticized it. I got to tell you, I think it's a draw on the war on terrorism. He's going to be deferring to what the New York Times wants him to do in order to keep calling him a maverick. As for the courts, he was part of the Gang of 14. He did say Justice Alito is too conservative. He did promote McCain-Feingold. We got Stephen Breyer from Clinton, and I think any lawyer would say Stephen Breyer is at least as good, probably better than Justice Souter. And we got Justice Souter when we were looking for an Alito. This guy isn't going to be looking for an Alito because Alito is too conservative. And one final point on the court, since I think it's pretty dismal no matter who is the next president. At least the 4 justices we like are the young ones.
Hi, my name is Ross Ulbricht, and I'm from Penn State University. The race isn't over yet for the Republican candidacy, and I wonder, will you endorse the only conservative left in the field, Ron Paul?
Well, I must say I love Ron Paul on everything but Iraq. If we could put Ron Paul in charge of domestic policy, nothing could make me happier. And he's very smart. like Pat Buchanan. Whenever I listen to Ron Paul or Pat Buchanan, I always think I can't listen too long or they might convince me. But the one thing I really think they're never going to convince me of is that if we just leave these crazies alone in a world with transcontinental missiles and nuclear material for sale by various terrorist regimes, that we'll have nothing to worry about. I really do disagree with them on that. I'd love to be an isolationist country, but I don't think we can do it with airplanes.
Hi, Ms. Coulter. I'm Anthony Cartelli from the F chapter at GW. And I just want to say we're very excited for tomorrow night.
Me too. I'm speaking at GW tomorrow night.
And my question is, what do you think is going to be Bush's legacy?
I think the successful prosecution of the war on terrorism, and for that we owe him an absolute debt. That and tax cuts and two what look like pretty terrific Supreme Court justices.
Hi, Ms. Coulter. Anthony Lucci from Hofstra University. I came in late with a bleeding nose, but I'd rather be a bleeding nose conservative than a bleeding heart liberal. So I know you just staged John McCain, but is there anything you can say worse than what you said about John Edwards last year?
About McCain? No, I think I just gave you the full... No, I could probably go on. But I gave you the Cliff Notes version, so I'd really just be elaborating on the major themes there. Oh, and by the way, to the Ron Paul supporter, one great thing I noticed was that in Montana, Romney came in first, Ron Paul came in second. So if we need to escape, I think that's going to be the new country.
Hi, Ann. I'm Jen Sierra from Oklahoma in the Fort Hard Knocks blog. And my question is, you had mentioned that you would consider voting for McCain if he chose Romney as his vice. There are internet rumors going around now that he may be considering, or that Tom Coburn could be on the short list of options for him. Would you consider voting for him in that case?
I don't think so, because the reason, I mean, normally a vice president doesn't help a ticket, it can only hurt a ticket. The reason it would help a ticket here is what we in this room have to be thinking about is who we are running in 2012. And I must say, surveying the country and governors and so on, I don't see any obvious candidates out there. I got to say, apart from not Romney. I mean, there is only one Ronald Reagan, but part of, I said this last year at CPAC, there is an ineffable quality to what people like when they're voting. I supported, for example, for president and gave donations to Alan Keyes, Pat Buchanan, Pete DuPont, Steve Forbes. Who else ran with asterisks by their names? I love these candidates, on paper, and then they do nothing. There is something to seeing how they are when they go out and campaign. And even with the entire MSM against him, and constantly elevating Huckabee and McCain, Romney has come in second in the delegate count. Everybody was saying on the media yesterday about his speech to CPAC yesterday, wow, it was the most amazing speech ever. If only he had given speeches like that during the campaign. Well, he did. But the media wasn't showing them. In fact, the only two speeches you ever saw, everyone was talking about how unbelievably great they are, the religion speech and the speech at CPAC yesterday. Well, all of his speeches are terrific. One thing that I think may have hurt Romney a little bit is people always say they don't want politicians. They don't want their sons to grow up to be politicians. But do you want your son to be president? Yes. Well, Romney really isn't a politician. And apparently the voters don't like it that much. And a perfect example of that was his Dole comment this week. What he said about Dole was perfectly appropriate. Dole lost. He did lose. That is an historical fact. And everyone sort of thought, oh, well, he was just the one in line. It was his turn. And then, he didn't have the fire in his belly. and he lost. That was the only point Romney was making. And for McCain to turn around and say, you have attacked a war hero, it was preposterous. But the one thing Romney didn't do in saying that was what the boilerplate any politician would have given you. My good friend Bob Dole, and I so respect him. So, Romney does need to work on a little bit of that, but I'm kind of thinking Romney is the one we should be looking at. I'll take other suggestions. I mean, Coburn is like other candidates I like on paper, but I'm really thinking about the vice presidential slot in terms of setting up our candidate in 2012.